Elections are currently underway in 12 wards across Ibadan North local government area of Oyo State. The exercise is to fill the vacant House of Representatives seat that was left by the late Musliu Akinremi, who represented the Ibadan North Federal Constituency. News Central's Victor Mbadike, who monitored the process in Bodija and surrounding areas, reports that turnout has so far been relatively low, but the exercise remains peaceful and hitch-free. And Victor joins us live now to give us insights on the process of the elections. Victor, what's the latest with you?
Tell you earlier that we've been having some crowd of very few numbers of persons coming out to vote. Well, we were at Ward 10 a few minutes ago. I could tell you now that just sometimes about 10 minutes past noon, we can see now that the numbers seems to be improving. Right behind me is a polling unit that suggests that we have our voters coming out to exercise their franchise as against what the low turnout about 3 hours ago. And to the other side, if you check again, well, you may not really have people, coming out to vote at that polling unit, but it sure shows that we have persons who are really coming out to take these by-elections as serious as expected. And really, Judith, it's becoming much more intense, much more interesting, basically. This is Yemetu in Ibadan. Ibadan basically has been washed with plenty of persons coming out to carry out their exercise. And I do have Oluwa who has earlier, Adeleke, who had earlier carried out his own franchise. So he has voted, and from what he told me earlier, he said there's not been any issues. Basically, he's been doing. It's been really an interesting and soothing event here so far. Oluwa basically is willing to talk to me about what he's experienced so far as far as the election is concerned. Oluwa, please come across. Could you please face the camera if you don't mind? Good afternoon. Tell us exactly what you've seen here so far in terms of the process, in terms of the exercise. Has there been any what's the experience basically? Just tell me what you've observed so far.
We are foot here in the Ward 3, Unit 36. Everything is going on very well. Everybody come out and vote freely. There's no any disturbance there. The voting is going on fine and fine. In this Ward 3, Unit 36, we are on the Yemetu Oja side. So everything is going on where there's no any disturbance and anything. The voting is going on fine.
We also have Adeyinka. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Adeyinka is also here. Well, let me ask him in the language he understands. Adeyinka, Ekasosa. So far, can you experience in terms of Nkadon Shelembi?
Kò sí rẹpẹtẹ púpọ̀ náà, gbogbo ẹ̀ ń lọ létòlétò bó ṣe yẹ kó lọ, kò sí wàhálà rárá, bó ṣe yẹ kó máa lọ náà ló ń lọ, kò sí problem.
Àwọn kan sọ pé torí pé kò sí enough campaign, kò sí enough awareness náà ló jẹ́ káwọn people àwọn electorate máa jáde to vote. Is this correct?
No, àwọn èèyàn jáde tẹ́lẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n nísìnyí àwọn èèyàn ti ń jáde wẹ́rẹ́wẹ́rẹ́, kò sí wàhálà, àwọn èèyàn ti ń jáde wẹ́rẹ́wẹ́rẹ́. Okay, so Judith. But there's something basically that I also got to understand. Thank you so much, Adeleke, for joining us. There's something I got to understand from one of the lecturer who spoke to us earlier at Ward 10. He said there's part of restrictions, posts in some communities or rural or urban areas in Ibadan, to restrict movement. It just seemed that has not really been met. If you check around, you see bikes, you see vehicles moving on around. That has been some kind of, I really don't understand why, but you understand that most people in this community, on this rural area, belong to the informal sector, and they do not joke with their businesses. As you can see, that woman just, walked past in front of me with a yam. So she's more interested in selling her stuff than, coming to vote. But at the end of the day, like I said earlier, it's not a major election to really expect people to come out to vote. It's not a governorship or presidential. But the good thing is we've had, few turnouts here and there, and I do hope that translates into a quality number of persons at the end of the day. For instance, at this particular polling unit, about at least 1,000 persons were expected to carry out a franchise here. But officials told me clearly that just about 108 persons have come here to vote so far. That's not too good. Hopefully that improves as the time goes on. Don't forget the election is still on until probably 3 p.m. When the entire curtain falls. Judith.
Victor, I mean, from my calculation here, that means that's about 10% of the eligible voters that have already turned out. If it's 1,000 that is registered to vote at that polling and only 108 have come out, that means that only 10% is on there. But let me switch gears now, as I have Bukola Idowu, who's the team lead of Kimpact Development Initiative. They are one of the observers at the elections there that's happening across selected states to filling these positions. Now, let me start with, just voter awareness, right? Earlier, we're talking about whether or not INEC has done its part, or whether the state government has done in part in, sensitizing Nigerians or the affected polling units and constituents about this by-elections. Let me start there. Do you think that that's hindered the numbers that we're seeing? 10% of just registered voters, about 10% of what should be eligible voters at that polling unit.
Yes, I think that is part of the reason why you have this low voter turnout, because the institutions that are supposed to do most of this mobilization and sensitization have not been doing what they should do at a top notch, because and I think the psychological impression that this is not really a major election is one of the things affecting this particular action they have taken. And at the same time, why INEC we claim they are doing what they should do, and they have even tried their best. But I keep saying that what happened to the political party? The political party that need votes and that should be the one to mobilize people to come out to vote are actually leaving their responsibility for INEC to do. Because INEC is not on the ballot paper, political party on the ballot paper. So you can imagine if the political party have also supported INEC or complement the effort of INEC in whatever they are doing, probably we should have a higher voter turnout. But what we have for now, because I am at the situation room at the moment, and we have our observers all across, I can tell you that the voter turnout has not been encouraging.
And it's very alarming when we're seeing these numbers, because it was also the same thing for local government elections here in Lagos State. So, Bukola, let's talk about that in terms of the entire process of these elections. From your observations there, monitoring the elections across the select states that are having these by-elections, what are your observations, good and bad? Share with us.
So I think the good thing is that election is holding, and that is the good thing. We've not seen where election is not holding. Across those 12 states, election is holding, and I'm happy that your reporter also alluded to that. Now, the other thing that we have seen, that we have tracked for now, is that across these 12 states, this morning, we have 6 cases of electoral violence that has happened so far. And we have sporadic gunshots in Kogi that has taken place in Kogi. And then we have issue of violence also in Anambra and Enugu at the moment, that have taken place too. And that is also on a bad side. Another thing on the bad side is also the issue of vote buying that you've seen, which is voter inducement, and I keep wondering what we can do about this, because it looks like it keeps happening every now and then in our election. But the other area I'm going to say from our observation is that Beavers has been a bit slow in Edo State, and I'm wondering why. That because that is not also reported in the other 11 states. For instance, in Anambra, in Kaduna, and the rest. So we have Beavers working excellently well in those places, and but in Edo State it's a bit slow, and which takes like about 4-5 minutes, and in some cases above 5 minutes for accreditation to be done. And then in Kaduna we have issue of late commencement of voting, and I'm wondering, we are still investigating why that is there. So the late commencement is much there. But the good thing is, in other states, in Oyo, voting Oyo, and in some other places that in the Northwest, which is, we talked about even Kano, to be precise, Adamawa, Taraba, election has been going on peacefully in those places. We are shining our light on Anambra because in the next 2 months, November 8th to be precise, Anambra is going to have election in that election, governorship election. But so far, with what we have seen, election is going on, peacefully in that particular place, only that the turnout is also a bit slow, and we don't want to see this kind of turnout when it comes to the governorship election in November 8th.